Welcome to the Institute of Managers and Leaders. Thank you so much for joining us today for our first 2021 Virtual Development Day. My name's Sam Bell and I'm the General Manager of Corporate Services at the Institute of Managers and Leaders, and I'm delighted to host today's 4 huge sessions, all built around workplace conversations. Even in an increasingly digitally focused world, the importance of workplace conversations remains absolutely paramount. From performance discussions to mentoring colleagues to casual interactions, daily workplace conversations, they're all critical in the workplace, and they're critical to productivity and successful organisations. For over 80 years, the Institute of Managers and Leaders has been undertaking learning and development for managers and leaders across Australia and New Zealand. Organisations big and small we work with, we develop their staff, we develop their frontline managers, their first-time leaders, and their senior executives. The Institute is very proud of the role it plays as the peak body for management and leadership across Australia and New Zealand, and we represent the largest membership body across those 2 countries. Today's Virtual Development Day has been hugely supported by both members and non-members, and certainly corporates across both Australia and New Zealand who see value in developing their staff with today's content, which are 4 great topics that we're really looking forward to, and 4 excellent facilitators that do a huge amount for IML, and we're delighted they're on board today. So just by way of statistics for today, we've got 2,800 enrolments. That's represented across 350 organisations attending. And like I said, we've got 4 excellent topics and 4 excellent IML facilitators here to present those topics. I will just go through a little bit of housekeeping before I introduce Mark as our first speaker and our first topic. Questions. We love questions. We will have time at the end of every session today for Q&A with Mark. I will facilitate some of those questions, and also if Mark sees a question that's highly relevant during his presentation, he'll certainly be able to respond to you. If you've got any issues at all during the day, please email programs@managersandleaders.com.au. That's programs@managersandleaders.com.au. And of course, everyone's got their action list. And this action list is really important for us. It means that the sessions are providing learning value and powerful learning for you. Those action lists have 3 key points that you've jotted down from each session that you can take away from the session and put into practice in your workplace. And also 3 practical ideas from the session that allows you to stop doing something, that allows you to start doing something, and allows you to continue to doing something. So what we're trying to do is turn the knowledge that you're learning from Mark today into practical application back into the workplace. And that's with everything we do across all of our leadership programs, Essentials, Foundations, Accelerate. Everything we do is designed to translate the knowledge that we teach you through our facilitators back into practical application in the workplace, so it makes you a better manager and leader and your organisation far more productive with motivated staff alongside. So that is absolutely critical, that action list. You can find it on the Development Day website if you don't have it. Alternatively, please email that programs@managersandleaders.com.au email address, and they will be able to they'll be able to send it straight to you. So workplace conversations, let's get into the first session today, the changing face of performance conversations. The best managers in the world are having regular and effective coaching conversations, and they create moments where they engage with staff in a caring way. Then genuine dialogue can occur at that stage, simplifying performance reviews and making them more flexible and relevant to the workplace is being done and is more popular with managers and employees. So basically, we know it works. It's important for today's leaders to ask, how do performance reviews really help our people? Well, here today to answer a lot of those questions is Mark Jones. Mark is an IML facilitator, and I'm delighted to welcome Mark to the first session today. Just a little bio about Mark before I get him on. Mark has 20 years of experience in corporate and military training and facilitation. Mark focuses on assisting organisations to lead the change they aspire to rather than attempting to manage it. Mark works with some of Australasia's largest corporations facilitating leadership and has significant experience in working in remote and often dangerous environments. Mark delivers workshops with a difference. His motto is that you should leave it as a better parent, partner, friend, and lover. He believes that if you cannot apply the learning that you have made to your life, then there will be no transfer back into the workplace. Mark is facilitating our upcoming Foundations program here in Brisbane and a number of masterclasses, a number of IML masterclasses over the coming months. And we can't wait for those sessions with Mark, as well as we can't wait for today. So Mark, I'll hand it over to you, and I'll come back on for questions and answers at the end. And please, if the audience would like to ask any questions throughout, please send them through the question box, and we'll get to them at the end. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Sam. And thank you for saying that I have 20 years of experience that I am. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's the time of experience in leading or being led. Today's topic, we're looking at the changing face of performance conversations. I want you to imagine that you are an Olympic athlete. You have trained hard. You have put in hours and hours of preparation. The Olympics in Japan are this year, and you're ready. Now, why is today a big day? Because today is the day that you meet your once a year. Strong, doesn't it? I mean, if you want to truly fall, twice a year it's scheduled. Still sounds wrong, doesn't it? And work the annual performance reviews is all we need.
Well, my apologies to everyone. We've been getting plenty of feedback that Mark's internet connection is not great. Unfortunately, this is the risk with a virtual event and a virtual development day. So what we've asked Mark to do is just switch his internet over to a hotspot, and we're hoping that that's going to improve. So if everyone could just please wait 1 minute until Mark can sort of reconnect to a better connection. I'm sorry for this delay. It's always the way that Mark's connection was absolutely fine before we started, but unfortunately, as soon as he begins, it breaks up. But if everyone could just wait 1 minute or so, and hopefully Mark can reset his internet connection, and we'll be back with you.
Okay. Sam, can you just let me know if you've got me on now?
Hi, Mark. Yes, that sounds better to me. I can hear you clearly, so and that sounds a lot better.
Well, where did we get to, Sam, before you lost me?
I think we lost you pretty much at the beginning.
At the beginning,
Mark, so,
okay.
so you might have to.
Let's go from there.
Start again, I think, is the best way.
Excellent in there. Sorry for that, everybody. Let's try this again. This morning, first of all, I just want you to sit back and relax. I want you to go on a journey with me. And it's a journey that's been coming for many years. You're preparing yourself for the Olympics in Japan in 2021. Yes, it's been delayed a year, but you're ready. You've trained hard. You've worked incredibly hard. You've been putting in 40, 50, 60 hours a week at this, 6-7 days a week. You believe you're at your peak. And today is a very exciting day. Why is today exciting? Well, today is the one day per year where you meet with your coach and receive coaching. Sounds very wrong, doesn't it? Yeah. If you want to perform at an Olympic level, if you want to be elite, perhaps you need to meet with your coach 6 monthly, with perhaps 3 months just to catch up to see how you're going. No, still sounds wrong, doesn't it? If you want to perform at elite level, perhaps you need access to your coach daily. You need access to your coach in the moment, and you need feedback from that coach regularly. Yet for some reason in the workplace, we seem to think that coaching our staff once a year, possibly a 6-month review, a 3-monthly catch-up, is all that our organisation needs to excel against its competitors. What a joke. Yeah. The changing face of performance conversation is today's topic. And if you want to be elite, if you want to be professional in your organisation, you want to achieve, perhaps it's time to ditch the annual review. Just want to look at some statistics that I pulled up for annual reviews and a little bit on feedback. 96% of all employees on feedback. Now, 96%. As I go through these, I'm going to ask you just to think of a word that you relate to for each statistics in there. The word I wrote is agree. I agree with that. I think 96% of people do want to receive regular feedback. 69% of employees say that they would work harder if they felt their efforts were better recognised. When I read that, I actually wrote only 69%. Yeah. My belief is that all employees work better when they feel that their efforts are being recognised. Now, next statistic, 45% of HR professionals do not think annual performance reviews are an accurate assessment. So even the people that you're employing to advise you are saying that they don't work. The comment I wrote there, half, 45%, not quite half, but close enough to. Nearly half of all professionals think that it does not work. Yeah. The next statistic we've got there, 32% of employees have to wait more than 3 months for feedback. The word that I wrote there was sad. Yeah. I genuinely consider that to be sad. The next one that I wrote in there, 24% of workers consider leaving their jobs if they have managers that provide inadequate performance feedback. And the words I wrote there, again, only 24% consider leaving. I would have expected it to be higher. Yeah. Only 8% of companies believe their performance management process is highly effective in driving business. Wow, 8%. Now, the words that I wrote there, that this matches my experience. And 92% of respondents agreed with the assertion, negative feedback, if delivered appropriately, is effective in improving performance. And I'm going to end on the same word I started with. I agree with that. Absolutely agree with that statement in there. I want to have a look at one more statistic around, well, that I dug up during this. And it was a question of, do you trust your manager? Now, the interesting part of this, 58% of respondents said that they would trust a total stranger. 42% said that they trust their manager. So to each and every manager that's tuned into us today, yeah, your trust ratio is lower than a stranger off the street. What are you going to do about that, and how are you going to change it? Now, the reason I ask that is because trust must be present if you're going to give feedback. If you're going to help your people to improve, if you're going to become a coach, then your people must be able to trust you. To illustrate this, I've had a look at the Johari window. Now, many of you may be well aware of this. The Johari window was famously highlighted by Dick Cheney, the US Secretary of State at the time, when he said that there's things that you know that we know, there's things that we know that you don't know, there's things that you know that we don't know, and there's stuff that nobody knows. And everybody went, what the hell is he talking about? Well, what he was talking about is that there is information that is known to yourself and known to others. That information is what we call information that is in the domain. It is open to all to use. I know that I'm a good-looking fellow, and so does everybody else. Therefore, that information is in the domain. There is information that we keep hidden. Now, that may be your PIN, it may be personal or private information, and it is often information that we fear that were it made available to others, that could damage us. Now, the problem with this information is that it requires us to build a facade to keep that information hidden. The more information that we have in our hidden quadrant, then the more effort we have to put into hiding it. And that's effort that we cannot put into other endeavors. On the other side, we've got information that we are blind to. This is information that we are yet to discover about ourselves, but interestingly, others know this. Now, I've seen this play out in a couple of ways. I walked into a workshop the other day and asked a couple of the young workers there, where was the manager? And the response that I got was, do you want the manager, or do you want somebody who knows what he's talking about? Now, clearly, the workers in that workshop did not believe that the manager had the technical skills to assist me. Yet for some reason, they hadn't told their boss that. Now, we have a little giggle because that could be a career limiting move in there. So what would it take for a manager to become aware of their failings? Well, simply the staff would have to trust them. They would have to trust that the manager would receive that information, whether it was given skillfully, whether it was given amateurishly, whether it was given with good intent or not, that the manager had the skill set to receive that information without seeking revenge. That is, they would have to trust the manager. Yeah. Now, how do we move information out of the hidden area and into the blind area? Well, we must build trust. Without trust, nothing will work. As a manager, what you may find is that you firstly need to reveal some of the things you have hidden behind your facade before you can ask others to give you feedback on your blind spots. You may have to give trust in order to receive trust. I had an example of this with a young lady that was working for me, and after about 3 months or so, I called her into my office and I said, Kerry, I want to have a chat to you. Now, she was very nervous, and that was my mistake, because she was expecting her probation interview at that stage. And I said, oh no, it's nothing like that. I said, what I've noticed about you, Kerry, is that you genuinely care. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you know the name of every staff member here, their partner's name, their children's names, what they do. I said, you genuinely care about others. And she said, yes. And I said, well, I don't. I said, I've worked with some of these staff for a number of years, and I generally would know if they were married or not, but I don't know their children's names. I don't know what they do. I don't have the care gene. And she said, well, I can do that for you. And I said, no. Kerry, what I need you to do is to come into the office when I've missed something and smack me about the head and let me know, Mark, you missed an opportunity to care. Now, at that stage, I was considered a guru at what I did. And for me to be asking for the assistance of somebody with only 3 months experience, to her was shocking. But because I was able to trust her to help me, she was quite willing then to show me my blind spots, the things that I was not aware of. So trust must be given if you expect to receive it. Moving on from there, everything starts with intention. If you're going to be a coach, I'm going to ask you to meet daily with the people that you're coaching and provide them with feedback. But it starts with intention. What is the intention of the discussion that you're about to have? Now, if it's to discipline the staff member, then stop calling it coaching. If you call it coaching, every time you want to coach that person, they perceive that they're about to be punished. Now, if it's discipline, call it what it is, discipline. Do it quickly, do it early, and get it out of the way. But don't call that coaching. You confuse people. The second reason you might be giving coaching is to get something off your chest. Now, if that's the case, don't coach. What that's actually telling me is you failed to coach for many an opportunity and have now become so frustrated that all the coachee is going to hear is your frustrations. Coaching is not about you. It is all about the other person. Therefore, if it's to get something off your chest, I want you to go home, get yourself a glass of wine and tell the dog or the cat about your frustrations. Let them bear it. They're very good at it. Let them hear that you're frustrated. And then when you've realized that your frustration was caused by yourself and not them, your lack of action, then perhaps you're ready to actually coach. The only reason, the only intention you should go into a coaching session is to truly help the coachee. So before you go in, please stop and check your intentions. The next part of this, what to talk about. Well, that really depends on where the coachee's at. Now, we're going to use another very simple and easy model to have a look at readiness for coaching. And that's the model developed by Tuckman. So Tuckman's team dynamics, and I'm sure you all are aware of it when I say the words forming, storming, norming, performing, and mourning. What Bruce Tuckman did is he identified that all teams go through stages of development, and individuals who join a team go through the same stages. The first stage is that forming stage. In the forming stage, people are simply in an exploration stage. It's their first day or week at work, and they're exploring their surrounds. some of the things they need to know. They need to know where are the bathrooms, where do they park, when will they be paid, where is their office, how do they log on. This is the forming stage. If you're able to induct your people into the workplace and onboard them well, then forming will not last too long. And that's good news, because whilst they're in forming, little if any work will get done. The second stage is the storming stage. Now, the storming actually occurs because we have expectations of our staff and they have expectations of the workplace. And if those expectations are not laid out, then there will be a conflict. All conflict is simply an unmet expectation. I expect you to be at work by 9 a.m. You're arriving at 10. We have an unmet expectation, therefore we have conflict. In the storming stage, what does your coaching look like? Well, it simply looks like setting expectations, being clear with people about what you expect. Now, I want you to look at 4 areas. First of all, what does the organisation expect of them? What are the organisation's key policies, processes, systems, rules, and codes that they need to be aware of? Take the time to go through them and personalise them and make sure that the person understands what are the expectations that you're setting them. The second area that there will be conflict is in the organisation, but not around processes and systems, around behaviour. And that's simply because the person coming into the workplace has their own set of values. The organisation has stated values and the organisation has hidden values. And until we're able to talk about these values and align them, then there's going to be storming. The third place that we will see storming is with the team. Now, this one's a little bit trickier. The reason we're storming with the team is because the team also has rules, processes, and systems in place. However, they're not written. They include, don't sit in Mary's chair at the meeting. She always sits there. And if you do, there'll be consequences. They can include things like whether we say good morning or say good night before we leave. Now, these unwritten rules are what are going to cause a lot of trouble. And one of the things that you can do is just sit down with a new employee and help them to understand what are the unwritten rules that the team is currently working by. The last area, of course, that they will have conflict with is with you, because you're their leader and you have expectations of them. And likewise, they have expectations of you. So at this stage, it is prudent to sit down and just to explain to each person that works for you, what are your personal expectations of them? And then take the time to listen to what are their expectations of you as a manager. Now, in this stage, what does the coaching look like? Well, it's going to be lots of affirmation and lots of correction. So if somebody's doing the right thing, we take the time to actually affirm that they're doing the right thing. And if they're using old habits, if they're using practices or systems from another workplace, then we must quickly correct them and remind them that around here, the expectations are different. So in this storming stage, coaching is actually quite easy. It is fast, but it builds a relationship with the coachee that says, I genuinely care about keeping you out of conflict. I genuinely care about your success. Yeah. And that's where you're going to start building that 42% trust that managers have to hopefully a higher level than the trust they have of a stranger in public. The third area that Tuckman talks about is the norming stage. Now, in the norming stage, people understand their workplace, they understand their surrounds, they understand the systems, and they get on with their work. I know my job, I can do my job in there. I am comfortable with what's going on around here. Now, at this stage, at at this stage, in the norming stage, your coaching needs to become personalized. This is affirmation coaching and correction coaching again, but it is regular coaching aimed to help the individual perform their job better, to do better. The last stage that you may have people at is the performing stage. Now, in the performing stage, this is where coaching really does change from coaching to mentoring. Now, mentoring is not a fancy word for coaching. A lot of organizations believe it is, and therefore when somebody joins the organization, they appoint them a mentor. Well, in the forming stage, I don't need a mentor. I need somebody to tell me what I need to know. So perhaps we appoint the mentor at the storming stage. No. In the storming stage, my coaching is more teaching. So I go from a telling style of leadership to a teaching style. In the norming stage, I'm a true coach. In the performing stage, I go to mentor. Now, many of us have had mentors in life, and a true mentor is somebody that we can look up to, somebody we respect, somebody who is willing to go on a journey with us. They will not tell us what to do. They will not tell us what they would have done, but they enable us to work through what are we going to do. So it is an extension of coaching, but it is only appropriate at the performing stage. If we can understand the team development stage, we can actually ready ourselves for the style of coach that we need to be and the style of feedback that we need to be giving. Just moving on from there, Dan Pink, the author of the book Drive, put out some very interesting statistics around ratios of bad to good feedback. Now, I'm not comfortable with those words. I don't believe there is bad feedback. It can be badly given and it can be badly taken, but the feedback itself, I think we can drop those labels in there. So rather than bad to good, perhaps we look at affirmation, so affirming that somebody's doing the right thing, and correction, correcting them when they get off track. Now the ratios that we're looking at in a high performing organization, people receive 5.6 to 1 ratio of affirmation to correction. That is, for each piece of correction they receive 6 pieces of affirmation telling them they're doing the right thing. In an average organization, that drops down closer to a 2 to 1 ratio. So for every 2 pieces of positive affirmation feedback they receive 1 piece of critical, 1 piece of corrective feedback. In a low performing organization, the ratio is 0.36 to 1. That is, for each piece of positive, encouraging affirmation feedback they receive 3 criticisms. Wow. Just looking at those ratios, what organization are you working in? And the people that work for you, what sort of leader are you? Are you a high leader, 6 to 1 ratio? Are you average, 2 to 1? Or are you low, 1 to 3? Where are you performing at the moment? Affirmation feedback. If somebody's done a good job, have you used affirmation feedback? Now, have you ever said to a staff member, good job? Have you taken the time to say thank you? Have you ever said to them, well done today? And if so, you're probably patting yourself on the back and saying, I give affirmation feedback. Well, my response is no, you don't. That is bad. That is terrible juju. None of that. You see, that is not feedback. That is that warm, fuzzy feeling of just saying good job. But for feedback to truly work, then the feedback must be linked to the behavior, not vaguely thrown out there as an airy-fairy statement, as a feel-good statement, as I can tick that off my list to say that I've done that as a manager statement. Now, what do I mean by that? Affirmation feedback must link to the behavior. So I must, in the feedback, link what happened to the result that was received. So rather than good job with the angry customer today, I might try today, when the customer was angry, I noticed that you remained calm. And that meant that the customer also calmed down. Well done, keep it up. So rather than that warm and fuzzy, good job today with the customer, we've now got specific. When you remain calm, the customer will also calm down. You did that today. I appreciate that. Please keep it up. Here's one I want to challenge you with. How many times have you attended a meeting where the organizer of the meeting has failed to acknowledge the good behavior of the people who showed up on time? You know, we get so focused on correcting the people that are late that we forget to reward the people that actually were there on time. Next time you start a meeting, I want you to take the time to say, thank you for being at the meeting on time today. This means that we can get out of here before 10. You see, if you fail to notice good behavior, if you fail to pay attention to good behavior, then the good behavior will stop. Why would I put in the effort of doing something well? Why would I put in all the self-control required to remain calm when a customer is angry? Why would I continue to manage my time effectively to be at meetings on time when nobody notices? If you want to explore this a little bit further, please have a look at a YouTube video by Dan O'Reilly. It's one of the series of TED Talks. And that's Dan O'Reilly, A-R-I-E-L-Y, and just type in motivation, you'll find the talk. And he gives an amazing talk. It only runs for about 15 minutes, but it demonstrates the damage that you do when you fail to provide affirmation feedback. Truly jaw-dropping, and it will change the way you are as a manager forever. Good behavior must be recognized, and it must be linked back to the behavior. That's the key to being able to give affirmation feedback. Remember, high-performing organizations, 6 pieces of affirmation per correction of an employee. So I want you to set yourself a goal today. I want you to go around today and give 8 pieces of affirmation feedback. To do that, you're going to have to pay attention. You're going to have to open your eyes, you're going to have to listen to what's going on and look for the positive things, the things that often go unnoticed, and actually start acknowledging them. Just take the time to acknowledge it. But remember, no more thank you, good job, well done. Always add to that, why are you thanking them? Thank you for taking the time to clean up before you left the meeting. So we link the behavior to the reward. That's key to our success. We can't always, though, provide affirmation. There are times where, as a coach, we actually need to be able to say to our coachee, there's things that you need to improve on. Now, the old bathtub model. I don't know if you can see the screen here, but the bathtub model at the moment is actually showing the one that many of us are aware of, where we provide good, then we dunk them down into the bad, and we pull them out onto the good. Now, it is also known by a number of other colloquial names that I won't mention today, but one of them involves sandwiches. Have you tried this? Have you had it tried on you, and how did it go? And the chances are that if you have tried it, it didn't work. The reason is because that is not the model. It never was, and it is a bastardization, a simplification of something without understanding. Now, let's have a look at how it should work. So to give improvement feedback, first of all, the good. yes, it stays there, but it is not for them. A lot of people say to me, oh, we start on the good because they'll relax, they listen, it engages them. Rubbish. Because they've received that sandwich before, they know what's coming next. So as soon as you start on the good, it does not relax them. It does not get them to let their guard down, and the good is not there for them. The truth is, it's there for you. Because often when you have to give improvement feedback, you go in to get off your chest your frustrations. We talked about that earlier. Now, if you're going in there to get off your chest your frustrations, then you're going to exaggerate. You always do this. You never arrive at time. You only do what's good for you. And those exaggerations actually give the coachee the opportunity to go, well, that's not true. You're lying to me in there and you're exaggerating. Therefore, anything that follows is also an exaggeration. You are going to instead take the time to look at what is good about this person. What is it that they do for you? What is it that they are working on? And that is going to moderate your behavior. Once you've got the good out there, get rid of the bad and replace it with improvement. Now, at this stage, improvement is the difference between feedback and feed forward. Now, it's critical that you understand this. Feedback looks at what did you do in the past, and I bring it up again. When I'm giving feedback to you, then I use statements like, in the past, I've noticed that your mistake was to, I'm not pleased that you did. So we use statements that actually introduce something that's happened in the past. Feed forward, let's have a look at that. Instead of, in the past, you have, try working on feeding forward. In future, I'm looking forward to seeing you. Now, rather than I've noticed that you, I'd like you to try. So we change it from I noticed in the past that you have done to in the future, I would like you to try. Instead of your mistake was to, make it forward focused. The next improvement you can make is. So we focus on the improvement. It stops you going into negative feedback and actually making it a beneficial improvement to the person. And that's the key to the third part of this feedback. We don't end on the good. A lot of people say to me the reason we end on the good is because they will feel good, they will feel happy, they will like you again. That is not why we're doing it. We get rid of the good. Instead, replace it with a benefit that can be gained if the person takes the effort to make the improvement. What is the reward that they will receive? Now, some examples of improvement feedback. The good part, I've noticed you coming in early lately and I appreciate your dedication. To do that, I actually had to moderate my thinking. I had to take the time to notice the good that you're doing. The improvement. I would like to sit down with you and identify what our work priorities are. The benefit, this will enable you to better decide what it is that we must do and what can wait. Work-life balance is important to us here. So using this method of feedback, I actually take the person to where I want them to be. What is the benefit to them? They won't have to put in the long hours they've been putting in working on unimportant activities. Improvement feedback always moves the person forward to the behavior that I'm looking for. Just bringing this session to a close. I'm well aware of your time here. In there, you've all heard the old adage that the standard you walk past is the standard that you accept. Now, if you're walking past behavior that should be corrected, then very difficult to correct it later on. People are going to say, but you've ignored it in the past. What's wrong with you? Why are you now picking on this? This is personal. You're attacking me. The reason is because in the past, you've ignored the behavior. Now, I want you to take that a step further though. For everybody today that is a leader in an organization, the standard that you walked past is the standard that you taught. So you didn't accept it, you taught the person that that behavior was acceptable. Very hard to provide coaching, very hard to help that person when you taught them the negative behavior. And I want to leave you with this. If you're not improving staff, then you're facilitating their journey to failure. Stop and think about that for a minute. For every job that I can think of, over time, that job has progressed. It has changed, it has gone on a journey of improvement. And if I'm not constantly coaching, if I'm not constantly helping my staff, then what I am doing is allowing them to fall behind. If I'm putting in the effort to once a year meet with my staff and provide them with feedback, then for the other 364 days, I was making the effort to allow them to fall behind. If I'm only meeting with them 4 times a year, well, then the other 361 days, I facilitated them falling behind. The new coach, the new leader in any organization coaches daily. They don't coach periodically. I'll leave you with that today, and I'll go back to Sam now, and we can have a look at any questions that have come through.
Thanks very much, Mark. Fantastic presentation. I feel like I've been writing the whole session, Mark, taking notes. So there was a lot in there, and I think a lot to take away. And perhaps people might need 3 or 4 action lists to jot down some of those key points. And
perhaps they can come on the Foundations workshop where we actually get time to explore it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Mark. There's just there was a lot of comments that your internet connection was back in order, which is great, and it was very clear for me once we got that in order. Just in terms of a quick process piece, I think from Bronwyn, will you get the slides from today's sessions? Yes, you will, Bronwyn. They'll all be sent automatically with a recording of this session with the slides, so you'll have that. Another question here is the YouTube video you commented on. Mark, can you just repeat the name of that? It was Dan
O'Reilly. So it's A-R-I-E-L-Y. So Dan O'Reilly. It's a TED Talk in there. And the title was something along the line of what motivates your staff. But if you just type in Dan O'Reilly motivation, I've found it 100% of the time.
Excellent, thank you. So that will answer that question. Okay, so let's get into some of the content questions. What's the best way in your mind to deliver negative feedback?
Okay, first of all, drop the name negative, replace it with improvement. And that's to help you to set your intentions right. I'm trying to help this person become better. I'm trying to help them to improve. So to deliver that, the first thing is always in private, please. You know, if you do this publicly, if you do it in an open space area, but quietly, you're still going to embarrass the person. They may feel belittled, they may feel humiliated. Now, if you take those words, belittled, humiliated and embarrassed, they are so big that the person cannot hear what you're actually saying. Everything else has overwhelmed them. So please always do it privately. And my suggestion is to, first of all, spend 3 months giving affirmation feedback only. Take the time for people to understand that you notice what they're doing, you recognize and thank them for the good things. Now do that publicly, because by doing that publicly, you also reset those standards that could be causing storming for the entire office area. So do the affirmation first. It also builds trust. My boss is genuinely interested in me. They look at what I'm doing. They take the time to thank me for it. I can trust this individual when they do bring improvements to me. So if you're starting from that low trust base or a history where the employee has had low trust in their manager, so it may not be you, but it may be managers of the past, then start on affirmation only and build up, this is the new me, and then move into improvement, not negative in there. And you'll know the difference because negative is the feedback, improvement is the feed forward.
Yeah, and this probably, thank you, Mark, and this leads probably into the next question. Sorry, there's a huge number of comments and questions around what people's takeaway is. The overwhelming perception is that they got a huge amount out of it and have taken away a lot. Should you deal with, so this is from Ty, should you deal with what you potentially walk past straight away? I guess this goes to that negative, well, the improvement type feedback. Should you pull someone, straight into a room and explain that behaviour that you've walked past, or should you leave it for some time?
I'm going to suggest leave it, Sam, because it's going to take you a while to build up the skills to be able to give feed forward instead of feedback. You need a few minutes to think. You need some time to plan what you're going to say. You need to practice. However, don't leave it for any significant period of time. Deal with it quickly. Employees appreciate things that are brought up quickly, not immediately, quickly. They don't appreciate when you save that up for a year and then use it in a performance review. So in a timely manner, shall we say that? So deal with it timely, please don't deal with it immediately. You'll notice some of these roll off my tongue. Why? Because I've been practicing them for 30 years. You might actually have to practice it in your head for a few minutes before you have the conversation. Now, you don't have to pull them into an office. I also want to just make that clear. This could be a hallway conversation. This could be just a quiet, private moment where there's nobody else around and you're having a coffee with somebody, you're having a cigarette, you find yourself with an opportunity just to talk to them in private. But dragging them into the office may have connotations that you don't want.
Yeah. Okay, so just a follow-up question from that. If the behaviour has been done publicly, should the rest of the team know that you've had that conversation? So you've had that conversation about that behaviour that is unacceptable?
Yeah. I'm going to suggest in the majority of situations, no. There are privacy issues here, and if people believe that your coaching is going to be made public, then that's going to be troublesome. There goes your trust levels. You're back down to 42% or below. There are rare exceptions to this, and it may be that I have noticed an individual's behaviour and I have decided to talk to them to correct that. But I know the rest of the team is also engaging in that behaviour. I just haven't caught them at the moment. So in that case, I would take the time and have the courtesy to say to the coachee, look, I need to bring this up at the next team meeting because I understand it's not just you doing it. But I need you to understand this is not a shot at you. This is not me bringing it up again. We've had this conversation and that's the end of it. This is just catching the people who I haven't yet caught. So on those rare occasions, take the time to explain to the person that this is not to victimize them. Hope that helps.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Another question just from Siska. Mark, in your view, what are 3 quality indicators of great coaching conversations from the coachee's point of view? I.e., what should the coachee experience or walk away with?
The coachee walks away knowing that you cared. There's the first thing. If it comes from that discipline, that frustration, I need to get things off my chest, then you didn't care. They know you genuinely cared about them. So one of the indicators is they know their manager cares. Probably another indicator is that the ratios are right, that they're receiving far more affirmation than they are correction or improvement feedback. and they know that. Therefore, this wasn't you just having a shot at them. This was just part of you are always paying attention to them in there. The third indicator is change. Good coaching will see changes in behavior in there. So care, a good ratio of feedback, and seeing positive changes in people. Those positive changes include more of the affirmation behavior and less of the correction behavior. Great question. Thanks. That one.
Yeah, it is. It is, absolutely. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes, so let's do 2 quick questions. And I'm sorry we're not going to get to everyone, and I can't communicate all these comments, Mark, that have come through, but there's been some extraordinary comments, which is fantastic about the session. What if the behaviour that requires improvement continues? From Tracy.
Okay. At this stage, then we need to look at changing what we're doing. We're not coaching anymore, are we? So if the behaviour now is in contravention of our behavioural codes, our code of conduct, our values, then we deal with it along that line as a discipline conversation. If it's along the line of procedure, then once again, we can then follow that as a discipline conversation along the line of procedure. And generally, and this is something we do cover on the Foundations program, we would then look at a 5-step process to having that conversation, keeping you in control of that, whilst ensuring that the other person understands that this is now elevated and more serious. But we don't just keep bringing up the same thing. Now, having said that, it takes time to change. Now, it's okay when you've brought up something with somebody to say to them, hey, look, I know it takes time to change. So for the next week or 2, if I see you slipping back into old habits, I'll just quietly mention it to you. It's not me picking on you, it's because I understand that it takes time to change. But if you've exceeded that time frame, then yes, you need to elevate the type of discussion that you're having.
Yeah, absolutely. One final quick question from Lucas. I found that staff tend to remember the corrective feedback that's given due to it sort of being given privately or formally in the way of giving that corrective feedback, while an in the moment affirmation feedback tends to be forgotten through it being sort of inconsequential. So how do you, his question is really, how do I make affirmation feedback stick without making it a formal meeting every time?
Yeah, you've got to really understand how the mind works here. And what happens is that when we receive negative feedback, we perceive that as a threat. Even though the intention of the coach is to give you improvement feedback, your brain goes, there's a threat. And at that moment, it releases cortisol. Now, cortisol makes us aware, it heightens our attention and our senses, and it lasts for 6 hours. So one piece of improvement feedback had a physiological effect on the person for 6 hours. Receiving affirmation feedback actually releases more of the feel-good hormones, and they only last a very short period of time in there. So you're absolutely right in your observation that affirmation feedback tends to dissipate quickly. That's why we give plenty of it. We give it regularly. We do it when we notice something on the spot. It's that little hit for the day, that little sugar hit to make them go and keep going and keep putting in that effort in there. But that improvement feedback will always linger in their mind longer because of the hormones that are associated with it.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Mark. Terrific Q&A session and a fantastic presentation. I think the feedback, we'll send you some of these the feedback, Mark, because it's overwhelmingly fantastic. And you've started the development day on a great front. I thank everyone for attending this morning's first session from right across Australia and New Zealand. We really appreciate the support. A couple of quick things that I wanted to go through from an IML perspective. We've got 3 terrific masterclasses coming up in April. We've got Motivate and Inspire Your Team on the 31st of March, Communicate with Clarity and Intent on the 10th of April, and Time Management Mastery on the 20th of April. So please jump on the website, have a look at the masterclasses. Mark Jones is facilitating our Foundations program in Brisbane, coming up on the 6th of April. So if anyone would like to see more of Mark, he's facilitating our Foundations program. That is a face-to-face program in Brisbane, but Mark does do virtual Foundations as well. We've also got an Essentials leadership program coming up on the 22nd of April, and an Accelerate program, which is more for middle to senior managers, on the 22nd of April, and that's a virtual program as well. So there's plenty going on. Please inquire through our programs at managersandleaders.com.au if you've got any questions. Today's slides and a recording of Mark's presentation will automatically be sent to all registrations today. And I look forward to seeing you all in 30 minutes, where we've got Grant Worthington coming up with the topic, Collaborate by Promoting Disagreement at Work. It should be a fantastic topic. We look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you, Mark, once again. And thank you to everyone for participating. We'll see you all in 30 minutes.
Thanks, Sam.